Continuing our reading about Abraham in his days in the extra-biblical accounts of the book of Jasher. Continuing where we left off now. And the king and all his servants, and Terah with all his household, were then the first of those that served gods of wood and stone. And Terah, being Abraham's father, had 12 gods of large size, made of wood and stone, after the 12 months of the year. And he served each 1 month, and every month Terah would bring his meat offering and drink offering to his gods. Thus did Terah all the days. And all that generation were wicked in the sight of the Lord. And they thus made every man his god. But they forsook the Lord who had created them. And there was not a man found in those days in the whole earth who knew the Lord, for they served each man his own God, except Noah and his household, and all those who were under his counsel knew the Lord in those days. And Abram, the son of Terah, was waxing great in those days in the house of Noah, and no man knew it, and the Lord was with him. And the Lord gave Abram an understanding heart, and he knew all the works of that generation were vain, and that all their gods were vain and were of no avail. And Abram saw the sun shining upon the earth, and Abram said unto himself, Surely now this sun that shines upon the earth is God, and him will I serve. And Abram served the sun in that day, and he prayed to him. And when evening came, the sun set as usual. And Abram said within himself, Surely this cannot be God. And Abram still continued to speak within himself, Who is he who made the heavens and the earth? Who created upon earth? Where is he? And night darkened over him, and he lifted up his eyes towards the west, north, south, and east. And he saw that the sun had vanished from the earth, and the day became dark. And Abram saw the stars and moon before him, and he said, Surely this is the God who created the whole earth as well as man. And behold, these his servants are gods around him. And Abram served the moon and prayed to all that night. And in the morning, when it was light and the sun shone upon the earth as usual, Abram saw all the things that the Lord God had made upon earth. And Abram said unto himself, Surely these are not gods that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of God. And Abram remained in the house of Noah, and there knew the Lord and his ways. And he served the Lord all the days of his life. And all that generation forgot the Lord, and served other gods of wood and stone, and rebelled all their days. And King Nimrod, reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was one tongue and words of union. Commentary here for a moment. Now, of course, this is referring to the particular peoples of these days and these writings as far as they knew of people upon the earth in their areas. Back to our reading. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together. Phut, Mitzrayim, Cush, and Canaan with their families. And they said to each other, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching to heaven. And we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars. Excuse me. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men. Now remember, in commentary here, this is not very far removed from the flood of Noah. And here they are assembling 600,000 men. And remember, the book of Jasher is endorsed by the Bible, as we mentioned, in 2 places. So this is a biblically endorsed account here, even though it's an extra biblical history. So when we're thinking and looking at these numbers, we're wondering, where did all these other people come from? Fair question. Back to our reading. About 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, of course that's the earth, commentary again, about where they were. When it says the whole earth, it's talking about their region, their area, where they traveled by foot. Keep that in mind. Back to reading. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none, like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. Now see, it's mentioning here the whole earth, but yet it was only like 2 days' walk from where they were. Commentary again. So we have to keep things in perspective. When it says the whole earth, it's the whole earth as far as they are concerned, is what it's saying. In about 2 days' walk, they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it. And whilst they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. Excuse me. Commentary here for a moment. And notice it said, they began to build within themselves vain imaginations that they could even war against God. In other words, go contrary to God, challenge God. Their concepts of God had completely become perverted because of their departing into their ways of idolatry, worshiping of false gods made with hands. Back to our reading. And all these people and all the families divided themselves in 3 parts. The first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. That was the first group of separation by ideals. The second group said, we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. That was the second group's ideology and way of thinking, philosophy. The third part said, we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And God knew all their works and all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. Stop for a moment of commentary. See, these people had no idea as to what the clouds were or anything. They actually thought these were platforms floating around in the sky upon which cities were built, and inhabitants of the heavenly hosts actually lived upon this territory. So their imaginations were very distorted, and their understandings of science and everything else. Excuse me for my cough, folks. Moving on in the reading. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it. until those went up had completed a full year day after that. They reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus was it done daily. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. And the Lord knew their thoughts. And it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows towards the heavens, and all the arrows fell upon them, filled with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, Surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from the Lord in order to cause them to err. Commentary. In other words, the Lord had caused these arrows to appear to have this blood upon them, so that they would actually think they had struck some member of the heavenly host, causing him to bleed. And the Lord did this by miracle in order to cause them to be misled in their thinking and such, because their minds had already become so perverted against God and his ways. Back to our reading. The Lord in order to, for this was from the Lord in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city. And they did this thing daily until the days and years were elapsed. And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him. We're talking about God in his ultra-physical form here as Lord God, the Most High. I am. Back to our reading. Saying, Come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbors. And they did so unto them. Stopping for just a moment of commentary. This is interesting because it gives the numbers of the angels which the Lord dispatched to go down and do it. And the Lord was among them, according to this reading. It was 70 angels accompanying the Lord. Back to our reading. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one another in the same tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, We will ascend into heaven and serve our gods, became like apes and elephants, black and white colored. Now, stop for commentary a minute. This is actually a written history account talking about how he changed their physical appearance to change their colors, black and white colored. This is the first time we have seen this actually accounted for in the extra biblical studies, especially Jasher, being how Jasher is specifically mentioned twice in the Old Testament as being a legitimate history. So that's interesting to find that note about where God actually caused racial differences in the appearance of people, or what we know as racist today. We don't see that in the Bible. We see it here in Jasher, though. Back to our reading. And those who said, We will smite the heaven with arrows, the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those, he said, We will ascend to heaven and fight against him. The Lord scattered them throughout the earth. And those who were left among them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered on the face of the earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Excuse me. Have a bit of a cough, folks. Sorry. Back to our reading. And he called that place Babel, for there the Lord confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was all east of the land of Shinar was the location. So we're given the location of where the city was compared to Shinar. And remember, when it says they were scattered upon the whole earth, this could be a whole earth from their perspective. Back to our reading. And as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened his mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof. And a fire also descended from heaven and burned another third, and the other third is left to this day. So after this time, only 1/3 of the physical structure of the tower remained standing. Back to our reading. And it is of that part which was aloft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk. That's how big it was at the base. It took 3 days to walk around it. That's a big foundation. So now, over the ages, this is commentary of the tremendous amount of time, several thousand years back to this time now. Because of the erosion elements, it would just look like a hill, a large one, like a mountain actually, 3 days to walk around it. It wouldn't appear to be a tower at all. It looked like a mountain. And back to our reading. And many of the sons of men died in that tower, a people without number. Okay, we're going to continue our reading in our next part. Come back and be with us. Farewell.